Summer rolled in with an unreal heat, and the fourth wall was finally being used for its spa services. Magically cooled water, refreshing baths, a new concept from the south called a shower. These wonders and more were available for the first time in Havel. It was our way of standing out from the competition. The staff was refreshed and ready to go full tilt as we prepared to wrap up a year of service. The morning calm was broken by a tired and dirty-looking group of dwarves. They numbered almost a dozen, and they sank with a grim solemnity into their chairs. I knew this look. A massive adventuring party of dwarven nobles off to reclaim some hold in the West Marches. If we didn't get them food and drink fast, they would descend into political philosophy and throat-singing about the glory days of whichever grand hall they thought starry-eyed. While Caratina took their initial orders, I brought Steve Gary into the back room. Shoving the bloodstaff pendant into his pocket, I coached him through several key dwarven phrases of respect. Steve had a lot of heart, and dwarves respected that more than any human politeness, but it wouldn't hurt to add that on. They didn't stay long, but spoke in a subdued manner with Steve. He must have known quite a bit more dwarvish than I thought, for they left him with the sacred manuscript of Clan Hammerhand. Upon opening it, the runic magic flew off the page and attached itself to his face. He gained an entire level of experience as he recounted the individual grudges of every member of Clan Hammerhands and their experience in settling them or dying trying. Wine, that sweet nectar of the gods, and precociousness. Takes a steady hand and focus to know just when to bottle it. It was time to put the finish on the vintage of the summer season of wine, and I led Steve outside and directed him through my new procedures. The Count's Own. My face and name were on the bottle, of course, to lend it credibility. One would assume it also tastes better just from association with me. There was time for short testing among the wives of Havel, and we gathered 3 golden tips. Word of mouth would spread about the delicate bouquet before you experienced the nutty flavor. Rumbling out of the Harrow Chill Mountains, a giant stumbled his way through Havel. No one was seriously injured, no property destroyed, but the road would need a bit of work. Almost destroying the inn in the process, the giant sat down and clutched his knees to his chest while awaiting service. A series of deep sighs and a morose stink in the air led me to believe this giant was in fact deeply depressed, just looking for someone to shake him from his funk. Fortunately, Steve Gary was an excellent counselor and had just finished his giant's consolation and consultation courses. From the safety of the inn, Caratina and I watched wide-eyed as the two knocked back a keg of beer, full roasted pig, and a deep conversation. Steve came back with 2 surprises. First, the bloodstaff pendant had shattered, spending its little life to bolster his conversational skills. The giant Unipsych had a friend recently moved to the south, now realizing that he loved her and in fact couldn't live without her. Unipsych planned to leave his hole in the mountains, needing to divest himself of useless possessions he couldn't take along. Steve had sold off some of the giant's knickknacks for 3 gold pieces. Crisis averted. As lunch rolled around, it was gardening time. Under Caratina's careful direction, I in fact did a bit of maintenance. As a noble, I am of course capable of doing anything a commoner can do, from baking bread to hard physical labor. Caratina had a bit of a bet with me about what I could and couldn't do, so of course I wasn't going to back down. Some pixies plaguing the petunias would not slow me down, no siree, and away I went. While I was of course an expert at putting sword point near things, it took a surprising amount of arm strength to maintain the flowers. It was lovely, of course, and folks were delighted to stop by and see the flowers on their way through Havel. Perhaps it might attract a bit of business. In the late afternoon, a problem child rolled through. A kid named Tori settled into the corner, too big for his britches. Just at the age of rebellion and finding his own identity, this human whelp had taken to haunting the bar with his presence. Muttering darkly about the sealed, cursed dragon in his right palm, he would demonstrate comically bad sword skills he invented, and claimed to be the royal sword forms of a long-dead dragon empire. He really just needed someone to talk to normally, but today he was hawking illegal manticore fangs and I would have none of it. I sent Karatina to beat some sense into him, act as a counselor, maybe a big sister. Things did not go well, and by the end of a short skirmish, Tori was gone, and he had taken the Locken of Hoots with him. Karatina apologized profusely for her failure, even as I insisted there was no way I expected a gardener to beat up a child half her age in a hand-to-sword battle with him twice her weight. Someone would need to be spoken to in order for something to be done about this kid. Composting. On this, I'd rather say little. I let Steve stew up the mix out back. As the dinner crowd rolled in, a fight that started outside rolled into the bar and quickly involved everyone. Once more, the logger and miner crews were brawling. I later learned that a back alleyway dance battle had gone awry after a rules change about the two-step to idle step process was considered to be illegal, and the loggers set about correcting that error in the miners' ways. Needless to say, Karatina waded into it. Infuriated by the recent loss and compounded by the shenanigery besetting the town, she took a short club to several knees. It wasn't enough. Steve got involved as well, and both of them ended up near exhaustion. They were on the edge, but we had finally made it to the post-dinner environment. We had hoped and prayed for this. A big break, a rare guest, huge tips, what awaited us. The call went up through the hall for mead, and mead they would have. Not needing prompting, Karatina whipped up a batch and got it out quick as lightning. The same werebear was once more inciting the crowd to cover her own order alone, but I knew to watch for her. Pouring the mead into a horned flask and capping it, the werebear left a locket of hoots on the table as thanks before disappearing into the night. An elven sword dancer rolled in. There was a ethereal, eternal, otherworldly, and immortal grace to her. And the faint light of the moon shone off her, though the sky was cloud-darkened. Her presence brought a sort of serene silence to the inn. She asked in High Elvish if this was the resting house, the speaker of the god of coins and roads. I replied in the same language that this was indeed a temple dedicated to my god, and offered her hearth and bread. She accepted and collapsed soon after, tucked in by Karatina. A sword dancer's equipment was a sacred affair in itself, and Karatina was under pressure to stow it silently and without damage to it, or the inn, for those moon-scented blades could slice wood like water. The next morning revealed the sword dancer left no tip for us, however, an unfortunate affair. Still, I had time for one final round of drinks. Last call, as the commoners say. Should have rounded out the evening early. A spell portal opened up, dissonant whispers from maddened realms of unreality driving the patrons slowly mad. I gestured to Steve Gary to use his latent bardic talents to sing the spell hole closed. With strains and numerous spell forms, interestingly, several dwarven scripts as well had made their way into his magic. He closed the portal before we began to sing the praises of any pink-haired space cat demons. As we collapsed with exhaustion at the day's end, we were little richer than when we had started. An unfortunate day, although Steve bore a lion's share of praise. His encounter with the dwarves had left him with a lot of heart, compassion, and zest for life. Perhaps one day soon he would start his own bardic journey, weaving a cloak of many colors to accompany him. Irregardless, my citizens and taxpayers, I thank you for your interest in these tales. For now, the fourth wall will go on break, and the broken cask with it. If you'd like these tales to return, leave a comment or message for me. With enough interest, our adventures will continue. Until then, we will move on to another set of stories for another time and place. See you soon.